I'm picking up my granddaughter from school and she climbs into the car with this look on her face. Not sad, not angry, just flat, empty, like someone turned off a light inside her. She's 15. I ask her how her day was and she shrugs. I ask if something happened and she says no. Then, after a long silence, she says something that's been rattling around in my head ever since. She says, "Grandpa, does it ever feel like nothing you do actually matters?" I'm George, and I'm 87 years old. I've lived through wars, recessions, family tragedies, and personal failures I wouldn't wish on anyone. And that question from my granddaughter, it shook me, because I've asked myself that same question more times than I can count. The difference is I'm at the end of my life looking back, and she's at the beginning looking forward. And somewhere between those two perspectives, I think I've finally understood something truly important. We live in a world often obsessed with impact. Everyone seems to want to leave their mark, change the world, or be remembered. I see it all around us. People chase careers they hope will make them significant. They post online yearning for validation, and they often measure their worth by how many people know their name. I understand this impulse, I really do, but what I've learned after nearly 9 decades on this planet is this: the things that genuinely matter rarely feel significant at the exact moment they're happening. They are often quiet, unassuming acts, whose true impact only becomes clear with time. Consider my neighbor, Margaret. She lived 3 houses down from us for 42 years. Margaret was a dedicated school teacher, never married, and had no children of her own, teaching 3rd grade at the same elementary school throughout her entire career. When she retired, there was a small gathering in the school gymnasium with maybe 30 people present. There were no cameras, no memorable speeches, just a plaque and a bouquet of flowers. 2 years later, she passed away quietly in her sleep. At her funeral, I anticipated a modest turnout, as Margaret had always been private and unassuming. Yet that church was packed, standing room only, and one by one, people stood up to speak. A doctor shared that Margaret was the first person who ever made him feel smart. A woman who ran a non-profit credited Margaret with teaching her to read when everyone else had given up. A man in his 50s brought his own daughter and explained he became a teacher because of Margaret. Story after story, lives were changed, directions altered, all because of a woman who simply thought she was just doing her job. Margaret never sought to change the world in a grand way. She never chased recognition. She merely showed up day after day, paying close attention to the kids in front of her. She learned their names, noticed their struggles, and often stayed late to help them understand fractions or spelling words. Nothing about her actions was glamorous or newsworthy, but the profound ripples from her life continue to spread decades later, touching people she'll never even meet. I believe we often misunderstand what it means to matter. We tend to think that significance comes from being seen, being widely known, or being remembered by crowds. But life doesn't actually work that way. Life is built on countless small, often unnoticed moments between individuals. A casual conversation that shifts someone's perspective, an unexpected act of kindness, arriving precisely when someone is on the verge of giving up, showing up for someone even when it's inconvenient, or truly listening when you'd rather be talking. These actions don't feel grand or important when they occur. They feel ordinary, routine, and easy to dismiss. I recall a rough patch when I was 39. My business was failing, money was tight, I was drinking too much and sleeping too little, feeling like an utter failure. One evening, I was sitting in my car outside a bar, trying to decide whether to go in, when a guy I barely knew, Tom, knocked on my window. We had met maybe twice before. He simply said he was heading to get coffee and asked if I wanted to join him. No big intervention, no lecture, just coffee. We sat in a diner for 2 hours, and he didn't ask what was wrong or try to fix anything. He just talked about normal things, his kids, a book he was reading, a trip he'd taken years ago. Somehow, in the middle of that completely ordinary conversation, something within me settled. I didn't go into that bar, I went home. I can't even remember everything we discussed, but that moment mattered deeply to me. It changed the trajectory of my night, and perhaps even my life, yet Tom probably forgot about it by the next morning. That's the peculiar truth about mattering. It's almost never dramatic. It doesn't announce itself with fanfares or notifications telling you that something you did has changed someone's life. Most of the time, you'll never know the impact you've made. You'll do something that feels small and unremarkable to you, and it will be everything to someone else, and you'll simply move on, believing it amounted to nothing. My wife, Eleonora, used to write letters, real letters, with stamps and everything. She'd write to our kids when they were away at college, to old friends she hadn't seen in years, to cousins, neighbors, anyone who crossed her mind. I used to tease her saying, "Ellie, phones exist now, just call them." She'd just smile and keep writing. After she passed, I discovered boxes of letters people had written back to her. In almost every single one, someone mentioned how much her letters meant to them, how they'd kept certain ones for years, or how they'd reread them during difficult times. She wasn't trying to make a big impact. She was just reaching out, yet she mattered enormously. Here's what I wish someone had told me when I was younger. Your life doesn't need to be extraordinary to matter. In fact, it probably shouldn't be. The relentless pressure to be exceptional, to stand out, to make a grand splash, that pressure crushes people. It makes them feel like their ordinary life isn't sufficient. That showing up for their family, doing their work honestly, or being kind to strangers counts for nothing unless it's packaged into something impressively dramatic. But the profound truth is that almost everything that holds our world together is accomplished by people no one will ever truly remember. Parents who rise in the middle of the night with sick children, workers who consistently show up on time and do their jobs well, friends who check in when they notice someone is hurting, volunteers who serve meals, clean parks, or visit hospitals. These are the people who vote, who recycle, who return shopping carts, small, often unremarkable acts that collectively prevent everything from falling apart. If you want to know if you matter, simply look at the people directly in front of you. Are you truly present with them? Are you honest? Are you kind when there's no expectation to be? Do you keep your promises? Do you make room for other people's pain? Do you celebrate their joy? These kinds of questions won't land you on magazine covers. They won't build your platform or expand your influence. But they will unequivocally determine whether your life truly means something. I've been contemplating my granddaughter's question a great deal. Does anything I do actually matter? And I've come to realize that the question itself is part of the problem. Because when we ask if we matter, we're usually asking if we matter in some grand, measurable, important, influential, or exceptional way. But mattering doesn't operate like that. Mattering is quieter, it's more personal. It's about knowing that your unique presence or absence would make a genuine difference to real people. I remember when my grandson was 7, he was terrified of water and wouldn't go near a pool. One summer I spent 3 weeks, just 15 minutes a day, simply standing with him at the shallow end. I didn't push him, I didn't lecture. I just stood there, patiently, while he gradually got used to it. By the end of that summer, he was swimming. Now he's 23, and he probably doesn't even remember those brief 15-minute sessions. But I do, because I know that if I hadn't been there, patient and steady, his fear might have stayed with him. That, to me, is mattering. Not because it was impressive, but because it was real. The older I become, the more I understand that most of what we chase in life is merely smoke. Status disappears, achievements fade, people forget your accomplishments far faster than you'd believe, but they do not forget how you made them feel. They do not forget that you showed up for them. They do not forget that you saw them when they felt invisible. Those are the things that stick. They echo forward in ways you will never fully understand. Just last week, I was at the grocery store, and the young woman at the checkout counter looked utterly exhausted. Dark circles under her eyes, moving slowly. I could have just paid for my groceries and left, but instead I truly asked her how she was doing, not just the automatic question we all casually throw around. She looked surprised, then her eyes filled with tears. She told me she'd been working double shifts because her mother was gravely ill. We talked for maybe 3 minutes. I told her she was doing something incredibly honorable and that her mother was truly lucky to have her. When I left, she thanked me twice. Will that brief conversation change the entire world? No. Did it matter to her in that specific moment? I genuinely believe it did. So here's my answer to my granddaughter and perhaps to you. Yes, what you do matters, but probably not in the dramatic, spotlight-seeking ways you might think. It matters most in the small, unglamorous moments, the ones you'll never post about online or include on a resume. It matters profoundly when you choose patience over anger, when you tell the truth even when lying would be easier, when you help someone even though no one else is watching, or when you stay even when leaving would be simpler. Your life doesn't have to be a grand spectacle to matter. It just has to be honest, present, and kind. And that, in many ways, is far harder than it sounds, because those things demand that you pay attention, that you show up even when you're tired, and that you care even when it's inconvenient. But that is precisely where real significance truly lives. Not in the bright spotlight, but in the steady, quiet work of simply being human with other humans. I'm 87. I don't have many years left. And when I think about what I want my life to have genuinely meant, I don't think about awards or recognition. Instead, I think about the people I loved well. I think about the moments I was fully present. I think about the times I helped without needing any credit. And I think about the conversations where I truly listened. Those are the things that have mattered. Those are the things that will ultimately outlast me.